North Carolina, Michigan, Penn State, Illinois, Northwestern, Arizona State, Tennessee, and more. It's the Recruiting Blitz.
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back into the Portal Podcast, where you get your daily recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal scoop. I am your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football writer and recruiting analyst. Thank you for making the Portal Podcast your first listen each and every day. We truly appreciate you stopping in. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. We're going to talk a little bit about the college football playoff and the proposed changes towards the end of the show, because it's going to impact recruiting, whether they're on campus, off campus, how many games, and other strategies that are involved. There's some finagling that kind of goes along with what happens with Congress and some lobbyists. We'll get into that because there's some shady stuff going on there. We're also going to talk about several commitments, as I opened with here a few moments ago. This is the beginning of the commitment season. I've been talking about that for a while, but I was shocked earlier this week that there weren't more. Auburn and Georgia didn't get any commitments from their big weekends last weekend, and I was very, very surprised because both staffs do a tremendous job with recruiting. But that didn't stop other staffs from getting some, and you never know who's going to pop today as well. So let's break it down and kind of go through the list. And right now, to be honest, I think this is going to be the daily habit. We're going to see 5 to 10 P4 schools get commitments. So get ready for it, because it's here and it's not going to really change. First off is Travis Burgess, quarterback out of Grayson High School, just outside of Atlanta. He has committed to Bill Belichick and the North Carolina Tar Heels. 6'4", 6'5", 200 pounds to 215. He fluctuates in there, but he's getting bigger and stronger. And I just really like the way Travis handles himself on the field, off the field, interviews, personality. He's the kind of young man that other football players are going to gravitate to. Coming from Grayson, that doesn't really shock me. But at the same time, Travis is a kid that could be kind of a big-headed, stubborn guy, which a lot of recruits at the quarterback level have been over the last several years. He is not. That is probably one of the reasons that Bill Belichick wanted to get involved with Travis Burgess. You got to have somebody that's going to take coaching, accept it, and excel with what they're asking you to do within the team function. Travis Burgess fits that to a T, and he's underrated. He's a guy that did well at the Elite 11. He's somebody that I liked when I saw him at Under Armour. He's been good anywhere he has been, and he was good at the Rivals camp this past weekend that I was at in Atlanta as well. Travis Burgess, I think, will be the next quarterback for North Carolina after Gio Lopez moves on. I don't think it will take very long for him to assimilate. They don't have a very good quarterback situation right now, and they have good coaching. You put that with the big piece of clay like Travis Burgess, Bill Belichick is going to be happy with this decision. I think it will work out very well for all parties involved. Moving along, the Tennessee Volunteers got Zach Groves, in-state defensive lineman, somebody that's 250, athletic, and has some height and length. That sounds like an SEC defensive lineman. Zach Groves, I don't know if he'll end up inside long-term. It's possible. Maybe he plays strong side in. Tennessee has used some 3-man lines and 4-man line. They'll do some different things, but he's a guy that has all the measurables you're looking for. And it's important for the Vols to keep players in state, just like any other prominent program. It's a solid state for recruiting, but not elite. So the ones that are there, you really need to keep them. They're doing a good job this year to do that. Now, kind of a surprise to me, but Illinois, of all schools, they've really started to make inroads, and they haven't done it really in my lifetime on any consistent basis, in Chicago. King Liggins, Brother Rice High School defensive lineman, probably going to be a nose guard or a 3-tech. He's 280, 290, somewhere in that range. He plays at Brother Rice. It's a program that's had players for a long time. That's a good pickup for them. He's not elite, but he's a really good player, and he's stout at the point of attack. His film's pretty darn good. Good pickup for the Illini. And also, more importantly for them, this is a guy that could have went across the country to play, and he's staying home to play for Illinois. Nasir Rankin, I don't know what position to tell you because he can play about any skill spot. If you wanted to put him at running back, you could, but primarily a corner or wide receiver. And again, depending on the offense, like in Rich Rod's offense, I can see Rankin playing some running back. And even so, Illinois may not run anything like what Rich Rod does at West Virginia, but you're going to see him on bubbles, on those little sweeps for the quarterback, just plucks it forward. It's considered a pass, but I consider it a sweep to the receiver, reverse, whatever you want to call it. That is an athletic guy that makes guys miss. He is electric in space. And again, this is the kind of kid that can play at Georgia, Texas, Southern Cal, Oklahoma, Florida State, wherever you wanted to imagine yourself in the last 20 years having that electric slot receiver. He could be that guy. And Rankin's film shows him as a corner being really, really good too. He could be your number one corner at some point during his college career as well. Big pickup for Brett Bielema and the Fighting Illini. Now, speaking of the Big Ten, I don't know really how this happened, but Northwestern got multiple commitments over the last few days. While again, as I mentioned a little bit ago, Georgia, Auburn, they didn't get any off their big weekend. So it just shows you how much flux there is with recruiting. But among others, Gabe Davis-Ray out of Columbus, Ohio, a safety, 6'3", 185. He has decided to cast his lot with Northwestern, and they weren't done either. Jaden McDuffie, South River and Edgewater, Maryland. Another player that could probably end up in the secondary. Maybe he ends up at receiver, 6'3", 170 pounds. He's going to be a Northwestern Wildcat. And Sean Morris, all the way out in California, running back, Los Angeles, 5'10", 205 pounds. Loyola's had players for a long time too. Northwestern gets player from the East Coast, they get a Midwest guy, and they get a kid from LA, all in a very short period of time. Again, recruiting is very fluid. Yesterday, Jazeel Hart, sticking with the Big Ten, committed to the Penn State Nittany Lions. He's from North Cross School in Roanoke, Virginia. This is a kid that's underrated as well. 5'11", 6 foot, somewhere in that range, 170, 175 pounds. I don't know if he'll play receiver or corner for Penn State, but I could see him on either side of the ball. It depends on who was recruiting him for where he was going to end up. But he's really athletic, and Roanoke's always had players, no matter which high school. That area is always loaded. I'm not surprised Penn State was trying to get him, and good for them. He's going to be another guy in a loaded secondary if that's where they put him. And they need help at receiver too, so I imagine the coaches will be fighting regardless. Mason Bonner, Mullen High School out of Denver. That's another program that has been traditionally very, very good. He's thin. He's probably going to be a flex tight end, kind of a big receiver, 6'6", 205. But Michigan, they needed tight ends in this class. This is their second one. Good job by that coaching staff to get him in the fold. Alex Dunn, Rustburg, Virginia. He's going to stay home and play for the Virginia Cavaliers. Corner, 6'1", 180 pounds. He is going to stick with the Virginia Cavaliers. Mason Martin out of Ladue Horton Watkins in St. Louis, Missouri. He's going down to Arizona State. That's not normally a territory you're going to see them get a player. Missouri for Arizona State? That's a little different. That's a good sign, though, because that program is growing after going to the college football playoff this past year. They need to continually add players, not only from their home base of LA to Phoenix, but if you're going to be a national program, you got to recruit like one. St. Louis is a very good city for football. Notre Dame, Ohio State, Michigan, everybody recruits that area. Good job by Arizona State going down there and grabbing somebody. Now, before I go on, just a note. This next weekend that we're getting ready to start, it is not an official visit weekend. To my knowledge, there are no visits. I believe the NCAA has it as a dead period. Next weekend will be a massive one across the country. Schools in every conference, every big name school you could imagine are pretty much going to have kids on campus. There are a few exceptions, but not very many. We're going to have some previews on that. I've got a commitment that's going to happen later today. I'm going to talk about after he commits to kind of finish this out. But when we come back, I want to give my take on the NCAA, the College Football Playoff Committee, and everybody, shall we say, posturing for the rankings and how it works 1 through 12. The posturing could be involved with a little bit of money, I've heard. Need to research it more, but we're going to talk about that next here on the Recruiting Blitz. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment? It's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing money and start building wealth. If you're like me, sometimes you get a little bit lost with A, where you're spending money, and B, how to track it, whether it's multiple bank accounts or what have you, investments. If you have it in one place, it is a little bit easier, and that's where Monarch Money can help you. Instead of juggling everything under different apps, Monarch Money can help you set your goals in one place. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Now, I'm sure many of you, like myself, didn't like the rankings and how it worked out from the first college football playoff. For what they're proposing in multiple fronts, it's going to impact not just who wins games, but recruiting and who wins games in the future. Here's what I mean. There's discussion about games on campus. There's discussion about just having 1 through 12 seeding. You got the oddity with Notre Dame, who's not allowed to have a top 4 seed currently, at least, because they don't play in a conference championship game. There are a lot of moving parts, but all of it impacts recruiting and who wins the title. So that's what we're here for on the Portal Podcast on this edition of Recruiting Blitz. And to be honest, I think 2 things that I want to talk about the most are on campus and how the rankings work. Let's start with on campus because it really impacts recruiting. There is nothing that impacts a recruit more from my personal experience than when they go to a home game and pick the school, Oregon, Tennessee, Florida, whatever. If you go to one of those games, you're going to see what the electric atmosphere is like. Now, for the playoff, you're not allowed to have guys on campus. I get that. But they're still going to see it on TV, and some of them even probably go to the games and just kind of blend into the crowd. It's an opportunity to do it. There's been discussion to get rid of them, and there's some people that want to add to it. Be very careful with this. You got to remember where these games are and the timing of them. The first game was Notre Dame and Indiana last year in South Bend. It was cold, but they were lucky. It wasn't raining sideways. It wasn't sleeting, etc. It was a beautiful night, and it worked out. But what if there had been snow and everything going sideways? Even for 2 Midwest teams, it's not good for the fans, etc. The only thing I ask is if you're going to continue to do this, you need to have definitive arrangements for some kind of a dome in case weather is terrible for the northern games. I haven't heard much discussion about that, and I love them on campus. Don't get me wrong. But you got to think about player safety, coaching safety, the fans, everybody working the games for the networks, all of it. You have to be able to keep everybody safe. So while it's cool, and I want the recruits and the fans and everybody to enjoy it because it's electric, Notre Dame had a great atmosphere, Ohio State had one, etc. All of those things are great. You still got to be ready for a dome. In a school like Tennessee, where would you go? Like, what's the closest dome? In Atlanta? They probably don't want to go there, but, if they had really inclement weather or something unusual, it's possible that time of year. Not likely, but it's Eastern Tennessee in the mountains. You could get snow there too. You never know. If you're not able to play it, do you have a dome or something like that you can go to? That's something the College Football Committee needs to look at. As for extending to a second round of home games or not using the bowls as much, I would like it, but I'm just going to tell you now, I'm not going to dig into this deep because of the following. Follow the money. The bowl games want those games to be like the big ones, Peach, Orange, Rose Bowl, etc. And I get it. I have no problem with any of that. But at the same time, they also need to look at it from a big box perspective. Where does the money come in for those communities? Hotels, restaurants, etc. There is lobbyists. This is what I was talking about at the beginning of the segment. Lobbyists and different things to make sure they get those games. That's not going to change. I'm okay, especially with the Rose Bowl, if you can get Ohio State or Michigan or Arizona State, a traditional Pac-10 or Pac-12 team involved with the Big Ten, that's great. I'm a traditionalist. Whatever the game is, that's cool. But at the same time, know that it's never going to really extend to a second round, in my opinion, because of the bowl games and the lobbyists, because the hotels make $1 bazillion. They jack up the prices. The restaurants get full. That's how this stuff works. These city commissions, one of my buddies helped run a bowl game for a long time. He told me how this really works. This stuff is all about getting butts and seats. They want people from far away as possible. They don't want the local team at all because they don't want you to drive. They want you to fly in and have to get a hotel, period. That's why a lot of the Florida schools don't always get looked at. Traditionally, go back 10, 15, 20 years. They wanted them to go away because their fans would just drive to the game and go home. They're not spending money at hotels. They're not spending money at restaurants. They're not spending money at the shopping center. They want you to spend. All of this is about follow the money, period. So I would love a second round of the home games, whichever teams are in it, Texas. If they, if they're the number 1 seed this year and it was set differently and all this posturing was going on, they should get to home games, in my opinion. But because of the stuff with the bowl games, and this is for any team, that's not going to happen. Now, moving on to the other part about the posturing with the seeding. This is where it gets really, really tricky. I've heard different things on this, and I'm just starting to look into it. But it's worth every college football fan reading into this too. Going through, let me be very clear on this, several sources, not like 1 or 2, but several. It is time consuming. There's no way around this. Several sources on whether or not there's money kind of being pushed around for the seeding to change immediately. Here's why I bring that up. It was supposed to be 2 years. Last year and this upcoming season that the college football playoff was going to have the seeding like we saw last season. To change anything, you need a unanimous vote. That means the G5 representatives, all 4 of the P4, and Notre Dame to agree. We don't agree on anything in this country. There might as well not be a vote. If you just leave it status quo and just pass out the cards and type your name and what your vote is. 0 chance. Nobody agrees on anything in this country. It's true. Especially like the G5 schools, their only chance to get a higher seed is for it to stay the way it is. Obviously, it wasn't a very good seeding based on how it went, but whatever. There's talk about that being changed this year, and there's some lobbying on how it could happen, meaning backdoor deals, meaning somebody's getting their pockets stuffed. It's ridiculous. It's gross, and you should just be able to do it. They shouldn't, A, have to pay, and B, they shouldn't be allowed to pay it. You should want it to be right because in the long run, it will work out best for the schools and for the fans and players. Now, I get it that G5 schools don't want to give up something, but they're not going to beat Ohio State, Texas, Notre Dame, Penn State in those schools. Like last year, Penn State, if they'd have went to Boise, if, any of those kinds of teams, they could host a game. They're still not going to beat those teams. Not in a big game scenario where they're focused or not. Get your money, get out. If you upset them and prove me wrong, go right ahead. I will gladly discuss Boise State or a G5 school winning a playoff game when it happens. Until then, they're going to get crushed. It is what it is. Take your money, take your lumps, get out. You're not going to be able to get into that Final Four realm again after this. And I'm sure they're probably going to be opposed to it, but they're not good enough. So I'm curious to see how that changes things. But again, it goes back to the on-campus and all that. It'd be cool to see Boise State get a home game, but or anybody of the G5 level. I just don't see it. I don't. So I understand wanting to change. I'm all for it. They need to have straight 1 through 12 seeding. But the last caveat with this is they're trying to get it, meaning the SEC, the Big Ten, to get those guaranteed 4 spots each. That's garbage. There have to be exceptions. You don't know when it's going to be. There could be years that, let's just use the SEC, they deserve 5 teams. There will be years they deserve 3, like it's just a really bad year. Every now and then it happens at quarterback. And you got a bunch of 9-3 teams like last year. This year will be better because there are guys coming back across the board. I think the SEC will take a step forward. They'll probably deserve 4, maybe 5, but you cannot guarantee them. That's the other part with the lobbyist stuff that I've heard. And again, I just need to see it in more of a specific scenario. I need to talk to somebody behind closed doors and not through a reporter to believe everything. But it doesn't surprise me if somebody's trying to push for that immediately, like it starts in 26 or something of that nature, maybe even try to get it for this year. There is no way in the world there should be a guarantee for the Big Ten and the SEC to each get 4. 0. There have to be exceptions. It can be the expectation. You can even talk about it publicly, but guaranteeing 4 spots is ridiculous. You don't know what's going to happen each season, so why would you be guaranteed anything? There could be 2 or 3 quarterbacks get hurt. If Alabama and Georgia's quarterback gets hurt 2 or 3 years from now, even if they're top 5 preseason, chances are they're not that great. Your league falls down. It happens. There can't be guarantees. I will be surprised if this gets pushed through because I don't think anybody else is going to agree to it. We'll see what happens. Thank you once again for checking out the Recruiting Blitz, kind of going over all the commitments, what's happening around the recruiting world, and sometimes with the portal. We could still have some more portal stuff coming. You never know. It's certainly a wild time in college football. But as a last reminder, this weekend, no visits, but the May 30th weekend is a recruiting bonanza. Going to be talking about some of the players that are going to be visiting different places, some of the key schools for their visits coming up, because there are 2 or 3 schools like Florida State, ironically. Some of these schools that are a little behind, Kentucky doesn't have much, Missouri. Why are they falling behind? We need to discuss that. That'll be here on the Recruiting Blitz this next week as we preview the May 30th weekend. But everybody have a good one. We will see you again soon here on the Portal Podcast.